A lot of people love to believe that the richer you are, the happier you are. But I feel like with modern day now, with all that we know and all the access we have to the rich that seems untouchable back then, we are realizing that the more money they have, the crazier their life seemed to be and the more unhappy they were. This is a story of Gloria Vanderbilt, okay? Her life was pretty sad. And every documentary I saw on her, every excerpt that I read, I was just like, oh my goodness. But she did live a very fulfilling life, a very happy life. And many of you guys may not know, because this was news to me, that this is Anderson Cooper's mother. You know, CNN Anderson Cooper? Yes, that is his mother, okay? But Anderson Cooper does not like to put the Vanderbilt name to him because it comes with such a heavy, So this is very interesting. And today we're going to talk about the fascinating life of Gloria Vanderbilt. But first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Korean Allude, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now let's get into this video. We have to start from her very childhood. If you're not too familiar with the name Vanderbilt, Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was born on May 27th, 1794, nicknamed the Commodore, was an American business magnate who built his wealth in railroads and shipping. Okay, the father and son amassed over $200 million in their lives, and during those days, it was in the billions. Vanderbilts after them were famous for spending the fortune and squandering it, basically. So before them, they had a lot of money. They was, very affluent, and then the Vanderbilts that came after them, just one by one, squandered their money, made bad business decisions, and just trusted the wrong people. So that legacy for a long time, though, you hear the name Vanderbilt, you attach it to just wealth and affluence and these high society social circles. And that's what it was for a very long time. Now, Vanderbilt is not so much, it doesn't ring that bell now today, but Gloria was one of the last golden child of the Vanderbilt family. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Gloria Vanderbilt, who was the only child of railroad tycoon Reginald Claypool Vanderbilt, and his second wife, Gloria Morgan Vanderbilt, was born on February 20th, 1924, in the heart of Manhattan, New York City. As she came into the world, her father couldn't contain his joy, saying, "It's fantastic how Vanderbilt she looks. See the corners of her eyes, how they turn up." She was truly the light of her father's life, and he really loved her. Despite their fame and fortune, the Vanderbilt family held some dark and heavy secrets behind their opulent doors. Reginald, Gloria's father, battled personal demons that his wealth couldn't resolve. He led a life soaked in alcohol, right? He was a drinker, leading to his untimely death from liver cirrhosis when Gloria was just a toddler of 18 months. And when he died, she was, she didn't know him too well, but she always dealt with the burden of feeling like she did not have a father and that she didn't know him. It followed her for the rest of her life, and she would even fantasize about writing letters to him. And she blamed herself. Do you know that little Gloria blamed herself for his own death, as children do?
I did feel it was my fault, even though I was not aware of it then in the way that I am now.
During the long days at sea, she daydreamed about the father she had barely known.
I had fantasies that he had written me a letter and that I was going to receive this letter from him, and it would explain to me why he had left, why he had died.
Upon his passing, Gloria and her half-sister became the beneficiaries of a whopping $5 million trust fund, an amount equivalent to $83 million in today's time. I tell you, those millions were a lot, okay? Suddenly, baby Gloria was a millionaire several times over, but this sudden inheritance wasn't the blessing it seemed. Her mother, who was a stunning 21-year-old socialite, took charge of the colossal estate, leading to a disastrous result. Her mother was more of a party girl.
She received an allowance of more than $4,000 a month from little Gloria's $5 million trust fund, vastly more money than the average American made in 1925. Secure in her income, she and her sister Thelma went to Europe to live and play among the rich.
For years, Gloria's mother dragged her between New York and Paris, including indulging in extravagant parties and shopping sprees. These trips were anything but wholesome. Gloria's mother often partied with her twin sister Thelma, who was secretly involved with the future King Edward, the Prince of Wales at the time, and meanwhile, Gloria was left to a very different state. Throughout her childhood, Gloria spent minimal time with her mother, who seemingly had more exciting things to do than raising her daughter. Instead, her Irish nurse Dodo became her primary caretaker and mother figure.
She really shouldn't have had a child, and some women really shouldn't. And it is true that she really was not there when I was growing up. She really wasn't there. But I was very contented because I had this adoring nurse who I loved and who really was a surrogate mother to me.
Gloria would later write in her memoir about Dodo, saying, and I quote, "Cut by cesarean section from my mother's womb, I was handed straight into Dodo's arms. Dodo's voice was the first I heard," end quote. So when her mother decided to fire Dodo, it was a devastating blow. Gloria overheard her mother's plans to get rid of the nurse and was thrown into turmoil. She recalls it as a shot to my gut and how she clung to her nanny in sheer terror of her own mother. Her life took a drastic turn from that moment on. You know how it is when rich people talk about their upbringing, if they came from trust fund babies, how their parents were just never home or never around to take care of them and just gave them off to the nanny. So to them, the nanny is their parent. And so Gloria had a really strong attachment to her nanny. And some might even say unhealthy attachment as we get into her later story. Once Dodo realized that Gloria had overheard their conversation and that her time with Gloria was limited, she gave Gloria some advice that sent chills down her spine. Act as if everything is normal, because they were going to run away from the mansion without wasting any minute. Dodo whisked Gloria away and left her with her Aunt Gertrude for safety. Now, Gloria's mother's lavish lifestyle and reckless handling of the finances didn't go unnoticed, okay? Her paternal aunt, Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, a renowned sculptor and philanthropist, had been watching the situation, take place, and she was very concerned about Gloria. Finally, she decided to step in and seek custody of her young niece, setting the stage for a scandalous custody trial.
She was underweight and seemed to have a nervousness about her, a lot of tendency to be afraid of things.
Aunt Gertrude sent Gloria to the exclusive Greenvale School. There, Gloria's test results revealed her lack of education. Gloria's academic standing was only one of Aunt Gertrude's concerns about her niece.
And was just not a calm, happy child.
Gloria Morgan filed for guardianship of her daughter. Aunt Gertrude believed that Gloria was better off away from her mother. She knew of Gloria Morgan's irresponsible character and had heard rumors of her immoral behavior. Gloria's mother was still collecting a monthly income from her daughter's trust fund. In the spring of 1933, Gloria Morgan was informed that her allowance would be reduced since her daughter was not living with her. In a panic, she returned to the States from abroad and hired a lawyer who offered a very simple suggestion: take back your child.
The trial was the talk of the town, so sensational that at times the judge had to clear the courtroom just to hear what little Gloria had to say without any external influence.
This was the O.J. trial of the decade. Everybody was concerned about it.
The famous child custody case that just dominated the newspapers when she was a very, very young person, it gave her sort of an aura about her. She was someone that everybody knew her name.
The battle between Gloria Morgan and Aunt Gertrude for the custody of 10-year-old Gloria Vanderbilt began in October 1934. Little Gloria put on a solemn face for the daily walk past shouting spectators and pushy reporters. Fortunately, no audience was allowed in the hearing. Every newspaper in the country covered the trial that pitted the rich and glamorous Gloria Morgan against the rich and stoic Gertrude Whitney. Crowds gathered daily outside the courthouse and shouted their advice to little Gloria.
They would yell at Gloria, stand by your mother, don't be cruel to your mother.
She's surrounded by these sort of bodyguards and fedoras. When I look at that, there's just an incredible sense of how sort of alone she was. And she was a 10-year-old girl sort of surrounded by, 7 big guys who probably didn't care about her. And it seems like many of the adults at that time didn't really care much about her.
The sound of weeping and wailing could be heard from outside the courtroom during these private sessions. During the trial, shocking testimonies painted Gloria's mother as an unfit parent. One such testimony came from Maria Calo, their dismissed French maid, who claimed that Gloria's mother had engaged in a girl-on-girl affair with a member of British royalty. Adding fuel to the fire, Gloria's maternal grandmother confessed, and I quote, "My daughter paid absolutely no attention to little Gloria. She devoted herself exclusively to her own pleasures," end quote. The court ultimately sided with Aunt Gertrude, and Gloria was placed under her care. Gloria's mother was granted visitation rights, but she remained under constant suspicion from other family members.
It was when Gloria Morgan was accused of having lesbian relationships that she lost little Gloria. The judge reluctantly awarded custody to Aunt Gertrude and gave Gloria's mother limited visitation rights. She continued to live on the estate with her Aunt Gertrude, who rarely paid her any attention. Though lonely, Gloria lived as normally as possible. She had friends, rode horses, and began showing her creative side by designing costumes for school. Gloria's mother continued to live her carefree lifestyle after the trial. By the time Gloria reached age 13, her Her mother and Aunt Thelma had become fixtures of the Hollywood party set.
And despite the change in guardianship, Gloria's life didn't improve much. Her relationship with her mother only worsened, and her new home with Aunt Gertrude felt like trading one nightmare for another. Gertrude was a control freak and imposed strict rules on the young Harris. Gloria was sent to Miss Porter's prep school in Connecticut, where she mingled with future luminaries like Jackie Kennedy. Yet Gloria wasn't just a prime society girl. Around this time, Gloria began exploring her identity and sexuality, and during a sleepover with a school friend, she had a secret romantic encounter. Truth be told, a school friend, which was a girlfriend. She had a girlfriend. Truth be told, it was great, Gloria would later recall. Of course, I didn't quite know what it was, but I didn't want it to stop, end quote. Interestingly, though, maybe a little bit disturbing, Gloria was drawn to this unnamed girl because she reminded her of her nanny, Dodo. Her former caretaker and the woman who helped her escape her mother's clutches. Comment below your thoughts on that, because that bothered me a little bit. That bothered me. And I want to know if I'm alone here. That's kind of weird, right? Your first intimate encounter is with a girl that reminds you of your nanny. Because after the custody trial on Gertrude won custody, the court also ordered that the nanny could not see Gloria anymore. Why did the court order that? What came out about the nanny that we just don't know that might have been sealed? We don't know. We might never know.
Throughout the trial, little Gloria clung to the belief that no matter what happened, at least her nanny Dodo would remain with her. The cruelest blow to Gloria came when the judge ordered Dodo to have no further contact with her. Not only had the little girl lost her biological mother, she had also lost the only stable, loving presence she had ever known.
It was just a terrible, terrible thing.
Though Gloria's life seemed picture perfect on the surface, these incidents were early signs of the underlying dysfunction, and that she would soon find out things were about to get even more complicated. Gloria Vanderbilt was a real-life Cinderella who didn't need a fairy godmother to transform her, as she blossomed into a stunning young woman. Her dreams of escaping the rigid confines of high school and embracing the glitz and glamour of Hollywood seemed more like, a tantalizing reality than a distant fairy tale. So at the ripe age of 17, tired of her boring life with her aunt, she packed her bags and moved back to Beverly Hills to live with her mother. Yes, her mother. But if you're hoping for a happy reunion, it was not the case, okay? Gloria's mom was just as neglectful as ever. This decision was a recipe for disaster. As soon as she set foot in Hollywood, Gloria found herself caught up in the fast-paced life that her mother was living, scandal-ridden lifestyle, particularly when it came to her romantic escapades. And her mother kind of let her get away with anything and was not really, enforcing any rules or restrictions. She just let her be free because she wanted to be free too. Her first encounter was with none other than Howard Hughes, of all people. And I did a video for Howard Hughes, also very in-depth detail. Check that video out. I will pin that in the comments because I really, really love that video. His life was just fascinating, okay? He was a famous Hollywood producer known for both his movie hits and his creepy reputation, okay? He was an odd man, very, very odd man. But despite being nearly 2 decades her senior, Hughes had no qualms about sweeping the inexperienced teenager off her feet. And let's just say Gloria wasn't complaining, okay? She was instantly smitten with Hughes, and their chemistry was undeniable.
Gloria started dating millionaire Howard Hughes, then in his late 30s. Hughes was producing movies at the time and had a reputation for liking young women. He treated Gloria like a starlet and swept her off her feet. Like many young women before her, Gloria took Hughes's promise of marriage seriously. Before too long, however, she found Hughes gone and herself alone.
Gloria fondly reminisced about her time with Hughes, saying it not only worked, but it was the first time that summer that I didn't have to fake her satisfaction. So he was good in bed. The sizzling romance, however, was short-lived as another man entered her life. In 1941, right after her whirlwind affair with Hughes, Gloria fell head over heels for Pat DiCicco. On paper, Pat was an acting agent and a charming older man, but behind closed doors, he was so completely different. His acting agent gig was merely a facade hiding his true profession. With his mob ties, Pat was quite possibly a made man himself. Gloria, still in her teens, was swept off her feet by Pat's charm and charisma. They quickly tied the knot, making Gloria his second wife. But her fairy tale romance took a dark turn when she discovered her husband's violent tendencies. Pat was an abusive man who resorted to physical and emotional violence. Gloria recalls her experiences saying, "He would take my head and bang it against the wall when he got into a bad mood. He also loved belittling her with cruel nicknames like Fatsy Roo, calling her fat, just to humble her a little bit. A stark contrast to the love and affection that she deserved. This toxic marriage lasted only 4 years, with Gloria finally breaking free in 1945. But guess what? She had to pay him. She had to pay him to break free. That's crazy. She had to pay for her freedom. Fortunately, their union didn't produce any children, but as soon as her divorce was finalized, Gloria was ready for her next adventure, proving that she was not one to dwell on her past mistakes.
The 17-year-old began dating one of Hughes's glorified gophers, 34-year-old Pat DeSico. Gloria soon found out that beneath DeSico's handsome exterior lurked the soul of a tyrant.
My aunt wanted me to come back to live with her, and I didn't want to go back to living that very restricted kind of life, and I didn't want to go back to my mother, and I wanted to do something that would really make Aunt Gertrude angry. And so I, at 17, did get married.
Gloria dressed in wedding white for the first time and became Mrs. Pat DeSico. The groom did not kiss the bride during the ceremony. Then the unexpected started during Gloria and Pat's honeymoon and continued through their marriage.
He would get into these violent rages for really no reason at all. It'd take me and bang my head against the wall and that kind of thing. But I really did, in the end, get very frightened of him.
Long after Gloria Vanderbilt cut ties with her ridiculous husband, Pat, she found herself falling head over heels again. This time, it was with the renowned conductor, Leopold Stokowski. This was a massive 42-year age gap. This man was 42 years older than her, probably was closer to death than he was to living, okay? And Leopold was already a father of 3 from his previous marriages, but, hey. Gloria and Leopold quickly became the talk of the town. They even welcomed 2 sons, Leopold, Stan, and Christopher. But beneath the glossy surface of their perfect life, things were far from rosy. She really had daddy issues, and you can tell in her dating choices early on. Leopold might have been a step up from Pat, but he brought his own set of troubles into Gloria's life. He was smart, artistic, and helped Gloria explore her own artistic talents, but there was a dark side to him. He was insecure about his young, beautiful wife and often tried to control her, cutting her off from her friends and social life. Gloria, feeling trapped and starved for affection, found solace somewhere else. As her marriage to Leopold began to crumble, Gloria found herself drawn to the charming musician Frank Sinatra, which I did a video for also. Their secret affair was as hot as it gets, and it gave Gloria the push she needed to finally end her unhappy marriage with Leopold in 1955.
Gloria fell in love with the charismatic conductor, a man 40 years her senior.
I don't believe in chronological age, and the difference in our ages really, we were together for 12 years.
Gloria finally found the courage to leave her husband when she began dating Frank Sinatra.
I needed somebody to rescue me, and he was the one that came along.
But Gloria wasn't one to stay single for long. Soon after her second divorce, she tied the knot with director Sidney Lumet. Although Sidney was closer to Gloria's age, their relationship had its fair share of problems. Sidney, like Leopold, was demanding and difficult to handle. Gloria found herself in a familiar situation, and the couple parted ways by 1963. Just when it seemed like Gloria was doomed to a life of failed relationships, she met Wyatt Cooper. In 1963, shortly after her divorce from Sidney, Gloria married Wyatt, a handsome screenwriter and actor, and this time it felt different. Wyatt wasn't just another husband, he was the love of her life. Their marriage lasted 15 years and had 2 sons, Carter Cooper and the famous news anchor Anderson Cooper. They also raised Gloria's 2 sons from her previous marriage, and Gloria once said about Wyatt, and I quote, "He made me understand what it would have been like to have had a father. He was the most amazing father," and she never said anything bad about this man. She really, really loved him. That was the love of her life, okay? For a while, Gloria and Wyatt were living the dream. They were a power couple, always making headlines for their impeccable style and charm. They made the best dressed list several times, but fate had other plans. In December 1977, Wyatt suffered a heart attack at just 50 years old. The following month, he underwent open heart surgery, but tragically never woke up from the operation, dying on January 5th, 1978.
But Gloria soon met her true Prince Charming in writer Wyatt Cooper. 3 years younger than the 39-year-old heiress, the handsome, affectionate Southerner gave Gloria unqualified love and support. On Christmas Eve, 1963, 4 months after her divorce from Lumet, Gloria and Cooper were married. Gloria's life really became complete when, in her 40s, she gave birth to 2 more sons, Carter and Anderson. And in 1976, Wyatt suffered his first heart attack. 2 years later came another attack, this one fatal. At 50, Gloria's Prince Charming was dead.
Gloria was devastated. She honored Wyatt's memory by never marrying again, a significant change for someone who had hopped from one marriage to another, right? But her love for Wyatt went beyond that. Even years after his death, Gloria insisted on being addressed as Miss Cooper. It was her way of keeping Wyatt alive in her heart. Now, Gloria Vanderbilt was a woman of many talents. After her roller coaster of marriages, she decided to spend the next 10 years channeling her creative energy into various artistic pursuits. From launching fashion lines to creating artwork, Gloria kept herself busy. Not one to neglect her family, Gloria also made sure her sons got the best education. Carter, her elder son, went to Princeton University, while Anderson Cooper, the younger one, attended Yale University. But just when it seemed like Gloria was finally finding some semblance of happiness, tragedy struck again. On July 22nd, 1988, Gloria experienced a nightmare that no mother should ever have to endure. On this fateful day, she and her 23-year-old son Carter were at home in their 14th floor apartment. Suddenly, in a moment that sends chills down your spine, Carter walked out onto the terrace ledge, looked down at the ground below, and prepared to jump. Gloria, seeing her son in such a vulnerable state, pleaded with him to step back. But her cries fell on deaf ears. In a heart-shattering moment, Carter jumped off the ledge, ending his life right in front of his helpless mother. I thought the worst thing that had ever happened to me was when I was 9, Gloria said, referring to the infamous custody battle from her childhood. But that wasn't the worst. The worst is to lose a child, end quote. Turns out he was battling depression.
She and 23-year-old Carter were spending the day together in her apartment in New York.
He had been asleep, and he never liked to sleep in the afternoon.
Carter seemed dazed when he awoke. He walked through the apartment and climbed out onto the edge of the balcony. Gloria begged him to come back into the room. He would not. Suddenly, Carter jumped 14 floors to his death. The police report said that Carter was being treated for depression at the time of his death.
The loss of Carter left a permanent scar on Gloria's heart, but instead of trying to bury her pain, she chose to keep Carter's memory alive. In a 2016 interview with People magazine, she said, and I quote, "People who knew Carter will start to talk about him and then say, 'Oh, I'm sorry.' And I say, 'No, I love to talk about him. More, end quote. As if losing a child wasn't enough, Gloria found herself in yet another mess in the 1980s. Her untrustworthy lawyers had committed fraud by not paying the IRS on her behalf, leaving Gloria owing millions. She was forced to sell 2 of her homes and took the man to court to try and recover the money. However, the case took a bizarre twist when a lawyer died during the proceedings. And although Gloria won the case, she never got her money back. And despite her personal woes, Gloria continued to make waves in the fashion industry. She revolutionized the world of denim with her lines of designer jeans for women, complete with her signature swan logo in the back pocket. This was a game changer at the time, as high-end jeans were a novel concept. Gloria's influence didn't stop at fashion. Some believe that Truman Capote's character, Holly Golightly, in his novel Breakfast at Tiffany's, later portrayed by Audrey Hepburn in the film adaptation, was inspired by Gloria Vanderbilt herself. Sadly, on June 17, 2019, Gloria Vanderbilt passed away at her Manhattan home at the age of 95 years old. Doctors had diagnosed her with stomach cancer earlier in the month, leaving her only enough time to say goodbye to her loved ones. She was laid to rest next to her son Carter and her 4th husband Wyatt Cooper in the Vanderbilt Family Cemetery on Staten Island. Gloria left behind a substantial fortune, but interestingly, none of it was said to go to her son Anderson Cooper, at least not in cash. As Anderson revealed, "My mom made it clear to me that there's no trust fund." But given that Anderson is a millionaire in his own right, he probably wasn't too worried about it. And he did a touching tribute on CNN for her when he passed away, just talking about just how wonderful she was. He really loved his mom and she loved her son. Okay, they loved each other a lot. They did a lot of interviews together. But this is a story of Gloria Vanderbilt. How fascinating, right? Crazy. But wow, her logo was the famous swan. That's the logo that she used on her jeans and products that she made. So if you watch until the end, I know you're a real one. Leave a swan emoji in the comments for Gloria Vanderbilt. Just flood the comments with swans. Okay. The comment below what other videos you guys would like to see. And if you also like the music you listen to, the link is in the description. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.